Let's do that. All right, so to the 12 people who have 14. Wow, okay, we're jumping. To everyone who's already tuned in, we're just going to give it another few seconds. There was a lot of interest, so I just want to make sure that everyone has a chance to come on before we go. But as always, please feel free to tell us where you're from, who you are in the chat. We love seeing who's joining us. Seems like it's a tradition at this point. Everyone telling us where they're from when they come on. Okay. All right, so let me just load this up. Hello, Noah from Virginia Beach. Thank you for joining us. All right, I think we're good to get started. All right, so I'm Jess Campbell from the AVTE. I'm sure if you've joined us for a fireside, you've probably seen me before. I don't like to talk too much in the beginning. I just like to hand it over because you're not here for me. So I just want to let everyone know that our call for presentations for the conference, the deadline is February 15th. And at the end of this session, we'll be putting a survey in the chat. We always love to see your feedback and any topics that you're interested in hearing about in the future. So without further ado, hello, Christy, and hello, Courtney. I'm going to hand it over. All right.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So hopefully that will pop up. Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. And I'm seeing some familiar names on the chat. So that's super exciting. I know there's been a lot of questions about this apprenticeship program. And we've seen the chatter on Facebook. What are they doing out there at the Community College of Denver? So Shannon and I are super excited to be here today, and thank you for the opportunity for us to tell you what we're all about. I do have a presentation that will take about 10 minutes, but I think that will answer a good portion of your questions. So I'll go through the presentation, and then after that, we'll open it up. So again, thank you for being here. I'm still looking at all where everyone's from coming through the chat. So first question, what is a registered apprenticeship program? So we are registered, and that means that we are registered with the U.S. Department of Labor. And this is a graphic taken directly from their website that explains the components of what it means to be a registered apprenticeship program. So there's business involvement, so our area employers, structured on-the-job training, related instruction that we provide, rewards for skill gains, and those are monetary awards. So after a certain amount of time, the apprentices do get wage increases as their skills grow. And then once they complete the registered apprenticeship program, they do receive a nationally recognized credential from the U.S. Department of Labor. A big part of this program is our partnerships and our strong collaboration. Our apprentices are in a cohort, so they do get to know each other, they do get together. So the collaboration between each apprentice, the other apprentices in their cohort, the sponsor piece is really important because as the Community College of Denver, we are the sponsor for the apprenticeship program. Not all apprenticeship programs have a sponsor, and this is really important because it takes a lot of the work away from our employers. So we do all the legwork between our employers and the U.S. Department of Labor. So that's appealing to our employers that this specific apprenticeship program does have a sponsor, and that is us. And then the collaboration with the journey workers. And journey workers is a very specific term used with apprenticeship programs, and that refers to the mentors. And in our profession, that's credentialed veterinary technicians and the veterinarians that are the mentors. So a huge collaboration between all of us. Traditional veterinary technology education that you're all familiar with, so that classroom education, labs performed on campus, and then unpaid internships. And we still do at the Community College of Denver offer our traditional programming, and we will continue to do so. But we're also aware that so many of our students are learning in the classroom, coming to lab, doing their unpaid internships, and also trying to work, many of them a full-time job. And they're honestly not always successful, or they're not doing as well as they'd like to, because it's just a lot to take on. So it's really time to start looking at that 21st century education. How can we make it all work? How can they do it all? And that's really where the apprenticeship program comes into play, that 21st century veterinary technology education, the ability for our students to earn a wage, pay their bills while they're learning how to become a credentialed veterinary technician. The benefits to our students, big one, they can earn a wage while they're learning, while they're going through the program. They do have improved skills and competencies, because the day they start the program, they're also employed. So what they learn from day one, they're able to apply at their place of employment. Wage increases as their skills increase. They are required to receive 2 wage increases, one while they're in the program, so usually about halfway through. That's a minimum. Our employers can give additional increases if they want, but at least 1 wage increase, and then 1 wage increase at the completion of the program. And we do consider completion not only graduating, but also passing the VTNE. And then opportunities for tuition assistance. There's multiple opportunities. Our employers, there's multiple tax incentives on their part to be a part of this program. We also work really closely with workforce centers, and they work with our students. They can help with paying their tuition. They help provide them with scrubs that they need, with a stethoscope, potentially a new laptop to do their didactic learning. So multiple ways that we can financially work with our applicants and our apprentice students. There's also additional support for veterans, and all of our apprentices are eligible for financial aid, just like our traditional students, and that includes the Pell Grant. This is another excellent graphic taken right from the U.S. Department of Labor's website, showing the traditional education on this bottom line that we're all familiar with. Our students start with that book learning. We need to get some of that knowledge, that foundation, before they go into their internships. So that bottom line, that education, and then once they get that hands-on learning, they go to internship. We see that red, where it's a really, it's a jump in their learning once they get to apply things hands-on. And that top line is the apprentice model, that education with experience is always just a step above. Because again, day one, they start the program, the semester starts, they begin their didactic learning, and they're also in their place of employment, being able to apply that. So they're always a step ahead with that hands-on experience. So here's the big thing. I know we've seen a lot of chatter about, a lot of questions, those AVMA essential skills. We all want to make sure we're complying with the AVMA. Our students do complete a majority of their AVMA required essential skills at their place of employment. So in our traditional education, our students complete those skills. They come to campus, we have labs. With the apprenticeship model, it's on-the-job training. So they're completing these at their place of employment. We have gone through extensive training with all of our journey workers. So again, journey workers are our credentialed veterinary technicians and our veterinarians. They are aware of all of the essential skills that the apprentice needs to complete and the individual tasks that go with each essential skill. So for example, trimming toenails on a cat or dog, and then what goes with that skills, all those individual tasks that they check off on. So they've gone through that training, how to use our database to check off those skills. They also sign a personnel agreement. So they are serving under our CCD faculty as if they were faculty of our college. So our personnel agreement has gone through a couple of different legal teams to make sure it meets all of our criteria. They're essentially serving as an unpaid employee and agreeing to teach those essential skills, our CVTs and DVMs, as if they were an employee of the college. So they're signing an agreement serving as an unpaid employee of our veterinary technology program. Another question we've seen quite a bit, well, this just sounds like a distance learning program, and it's not at all, and we really try to steer away from that terminology. Distance learning program a lot of times is completely online. These students record their skills and then they send them to the college, is my understanding. We are not working under that capacity. We have all of our didactic learning is through online modules, and those are 2-week modules. So the students go through and they have their material for 2 weeks. They complete that material and then they go to the next module. So it does help with accountability, making sure they're staying on track. So it's not open for just complete this material this semester. We also, a really, really important part of our program that is probably one of the most important parts is we have weekly meetings with our apprentices. So every Friday they come to campus. So we have that face-to-face connection and interaction. So we are doing things on campus, reinforcing their didactic learning, doing some of their essential skills in person that they're not able to complete at their place of employment, or maybe those skills that they can't get enough experience with. So every Friday, our employers know you can't have them on Friday. That's our day. One example is last Friday, I met with them, and they're taking pharmacology this semester. So we met on campus and we worked on pharmacology math because we know they always need extra help with that. Last semester, we spent a lot of time on campus having fecal labs. More and more of our employers actually don't do fecals. At their clinic, they send them out. So we did a lot of fecal labs on campus. So we're reinforcing those essential skills and the didactic learning through in-person weekly meetings. Workflow and time commitment, we make sure this is very, very transparent with our applicants as well as our employers. Our students, they are a student and they are an employee. So they are two things at the same time. We have them work about 28 to 32 hours a week. We tell our employers they cannot have them full-time. If they try to work full-time, they're not going to be able to get through everything else that's required in the program. But we do feel like 30 hours a week is a good amount of time to make sure they're getting that on-the-job training, and they're also able to be an integral part of that place of employment. So about 30 hours a week. They also do not get those traditional college breaks as an employee. And we make sure they're aware of that. They don't get spring break and fall break and summer break. They're an employee, just like all the other employees of that clinic. So they may get sick time and vacation time that they've earned, but they don't get those traditional college breaks. Our students spend about 20 hours a week going through their didactic material. So viewing lectures, discussion boards, taking exams, things like that. And then that 1 day a week on campus. When they're on campus, we're usually with them for about 1.5 to 3 hours on campus. So 60-hour-a-week time commitment. A lot of our traditional students spend 60 hours a week anyway between working and going through the program. But we just always make sure that this is very, very transparent for our applicants and for our employers as well. Okay. Upon successful completion of the program, typical, they get their associate's degree. Like our traditional students, they are eligible to sit for the VTNE. And then the one thing that they get with the apprenticeship program that is in addition is that nationally recognized certificate from the U.S. Department of Labor. And then that's it. This is Shannon and I's contact information. I'll leave this up for just a minute if you want to write down our emails. And there's our website if you want to email us questions. I've seen a ton of things come through the chat, so I'm going to try and work my way through these questions. So just give me a second. But hopefully that answered a lot of your questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here so I can look through your questions. All right. And I'm trying to, and I may miss them. I'm trying to, it looks like they're disappearing as I'm scrolling through, so I apologize for that. There was somebody that said, how many employers do you work with? We just had our first cohort start last August with 2 employers, and we currently have 6 employers now that we're working with, 2 currently, and then we have 4 more that we just signed on that will be ready to take our apprentices for our next cohort that will start in August. Another question I see is, how is the tuition structured relative to a traditional program? It's actually, I don't want to say it's the exact same, but it's really, really close. The tuition is pretty equivalent to our traditional programming. How many students do you have enrolled in the apprenticeship program? Is there a maximum? How long are the weekly meetings scheduled for? Great questions. We started our first cohort last August with 9 apprentices. Our application period for the next cohort is open. Is there a maximum? That is really hard to say. So they have to meet certain criteria. But in addition to applying for the program, they have to meet our criteria, we have to accept them, but then they also have to be employed. So they have to meet the employer's criteria, and we have to make sure that we have enough employers. So there's a couple of factors. As long as they meet our criteria and we have enough employers, then we really don't have a maximum. Between all of our employers currently, I'm thinking we probably wouldn't have spots for more than 20, but it's really contingent upon having those employers. And I think there was another question there, but again, it disappeared. So I'm not sure. I don't know if Jessica's on here to help. Those questions are just going through the chat pretty quickly and I can't see them. Looks like.
Yeah, Izzy's popping some up as they go.
Oh, okay, great. So it looks like as new ones pop up, the old ones disappear. So I think I'm missing some, but that's okay. They can just type those in again.
We'll pull them up, yeah.
Thank you. The comment or the contact information is going up. Yeah, so and then somebody asked about contact with the U.S. Department of Labor. And the contact person we specifically worked with, they are, obviously it's the U.S. Department of Labor, so they're federal. But there's regional representatives. Like we work with someone in Denver who assists the Denver area apprenticeship programs. So I know there's areas per each state. But I can certainly share that contact information as well. Even if you shoot me an email and say, hey, how do I get started connecting with the U.S. Department of Labor? I can certainly connect you with that. Okay. How does AVMA approach this for accreditation? So we've been an accredited program. Shannon and I have been instructors for 20 years. We've been with the Community College of Denver for I think about 18 now, and we're an accredited program, and it is our traditional program. So our material, our curriculum is the same as our traditional program. It's just the delivery is different. So we're going through these online modules instead of the traditional in-person programming. So we approached it with the AVMA, as you have to fill out and I forget what it's called, and Shannon may know, it's a program change form.
Change form, yeah.
What was that, Shannon?
It's a change form.
A change form. So we filled that out with the AVMA. They came back to us with a few questions that we were able to answer, but it's not a new program because it is our traditional curriculum. It's just a different track that the students can take. So we actually have 3 different tracks at the Community College of Denver, all with the same veterinary technology curriculum. We have our 2-year track, our 3-year track, and then our apprenticeship track. Our weekly meetings are throughout the semester, and it says how long are your weekly meetings, and I wasn't sure if you meant per day or, but they are each Friday throughout the semester, and they're typically anywhere from an hour and a half to 3 hours. We do have a couple coming up that will probably be longer because we are doing on campus. We're doing for anatomy and physiology, we're going to have some dissection time because obviously they're not doing those in the clinic, and we want to make sure they get that dissection experience. And then we're going to keep working on that pharmacology math. So we're going to spend a few times on campus with them. Is there another medical profession that utilizes this type of apprenticeship model? The actual apprenticeship model has been around for many, many years, and we associate it with a lot of other hands-on skills like welding and plumbing. Those sorts of programs have used the apprenticeship model for years. It has moved into the health profession, the human health profession, over the past several years. And now we're taking that into the veterinary profession, which we're super excited around. I can't tell you specifically a medical profession that uses it, but I know they're out there. I know there are human medical profession certificate of professions that use the apprenticeship model. The program is 2 years. It's essentially 21 months, so it's an August start and then a May graduation. It is 21 months of continuous learning. So they have their semester courses, and then we also use what we call winterim and Maymester. So during our winterim, which is between our fall and spring semester, for example, this past winterim, they took office procedures, which was a 5-week course. We will use Maymester. So this May only, they will take diagnostic imaging. So we utilize its 21 months of continuous learning. I see another question. What is the difference between this and a distributive model? And I apologize, I'm not aware of what a distributive model is. I don't know if you've heard that term before, Shannon.
I haven't. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't know what that means either. So I can't say what the difference is between this and that. So I'm not seeing any new questions come up, which I'm hoping is good, and that means I've answered all of your questions. But we're super excited. It's super popular. I think somebody did ask.
The distributed model. Can you guys elaborate on what a distributive model is? Oh, okay. So no campus clinic. So everything's done at their internship sites.
I guess it depends. I don't know what that distributive model looks like and what the agreements are with those facilities and if skills have to be recorded and stuff. So I'm not aware of what that is. We actually do have facilities on campus, so we're still using that. Really, the apprenticeship model, the nice thing is the collaboration with the U.S. Department of Labor. Our employers actually all go through documentation with the U.S. Department of Labor, and that training of the veterinary personnel. So I'm assuming maybe it's similar, but without seeing the exact details of it, it's hard to say. And then I saw a question come up that said something about lab and large animal. And that's a great question because we know a lot of your just traditional veterinary clinics cannot, they don't have lab animals on campus. They don't have equine and cattle on campus. So we will utilize those Fridays, just like we do with our traditional students. We have facilities that we work with for those skills. So we will make sure all of our employers have actually filled out a form where we list all of the essential skills and all of the required equipment, and they go through each one and they check off, yes, we can complete this skill while the apprentice is with us, or no, we can't complete this skill, no, we don't have this equipment. And whatever skills that they can't complete or whatever equipment that they don't have, we make sure that we complete those when the students are with us on Fridays. The training for the journey workers, because it's COVID, we did do remote training. So I went through kind of extensive training with our database, how all the skills are listed so they can see all the tasks for each skills and how to use our online database. I also did visit each clinic once each last semester just to have that face-to-face. And they all were welcoming, with masks and social distances. They let me come in so I could go through additional things and additional questions that they had. But the training was remote just because the time that we're in.
And we're also lucky that a lot of the clinics we're using are alumni of the program. Mm-hmm. So they kind of understand what our expectations are since they're graduates.
Really, really close collaboration. I do send at least every other week. I try not to bombard our clinics too much, but I do. The communication and the collaboration is really, really important. So I will send them emails. For example, our apprentices right now, they're taking pharmacology, surgical nursing, and anatomy and physiology. So I send regular emails to our journey workers, and I'm like, hey, this is what your apprentices are learning this module. In pharmacology, they're learning about GI drugs and cardiovascular drugs, and they're learning about nutrition and anatomy and physiology and how to use an autoclave. So going through those things, and I say, these are the essential skills they should be working on over the next couple of weeks. So we have that just really close communication and collaboration to make sure everyone is on the same page. So far, we have actually reinforced all of our essential skills on campus. So whatever they've done at their place of employment, we've also done again on campus. So they are getting that kind of double dipping. They're performing them at their place of employment and on campus. Let's see. How are gaps in employment managed in the event the student in the clinic decide to end the employment contract? How are gaps? So, and I guess I'm trying to, okay, and if I'm misunderstanding this question, just let me know. There is a 6-month probation period. So there currently, it's a 2-year commitment, right? So we want to make sure everyone's happy. Our employers in the apprentices do go through a normal hiring process. So they get to meet their applicant and decide if they want to hire them, because it is a 2-year commitment and we want to make sure everyone's going to be satisfied. There's a 6-month probation period. So if things don't work out within those 6 months, if there's issues, we try to address them. If we need to move them to a new place of employment, we will look at that depending on the reason. Are they just not happy? Are they not getting a good experience? Or is there disciplinary action? We are new with our 9 apprentices. So far, everything's going great. So we haven't had to address that yet. And we continue, we hope that it continues in that direction. But there is a 6-month probationary period. Which online portal do you use? And I know there's been a lot of chat about these databases on the AVTE website. We do use Trajexis. Do you worry that using, where did that question go? Using alumni journey folks don't give fresh eyes to alternate methods of completing tasks? I don't worry at this point. We do check all of their credentials, so we know that they're keeping up with their CE. So just like the rest of us, like Shannon and I have been credentialed veterinary technicians for over 25 years. We're educators, so we do that continuing education to make sure that we're giving fresh eyes. Things change, especially in any form of healthcare, veterinary or human. It's changing on a regular basis. So that's a risk with anyone. It's a risk with our interns. It's a risk with instructors. But making sure that we have their current credentials on file, we know that they're meeting all the criteria of a credentialed veterinary technician or veterinarian. So we hope that that's not the case. Do you have an idea of how much time it takes to do the legwork of this program? For example, it might take an additional person just to manage all the aspects of the program. Yes, Jackie. Mm-hmm. So the legwork, I'm going to assume you're asking like to get it up and running. I think we were at this for a year, probably, to get it. Does that seem right, Shannon?
At least
a year because there are multiple entities as well. We're dealing with the U.S. Department of Labor. Then there's so many components, the U.S. Department of Labor, then our employers, and then there's the college piece. Luckily, our dean has been extremely supportive in helping us get this launched, but I would say it's a year. My role as the apprenticeship manager right now, we did receive an amazing grant that has been helping us with that additional time and that additional funding to pay for my additional time in managing all of this, because as the sponsor, we are doing extra work. We're working with the applicants, we're working with the U.S. Department of Labor, and we're working with our employers. So it is quite a bit of time. Right now, it's been more, again, because we're still pretty new. I think once we get a couple years under us, it'll be more streamlined. But I'm spending, I'm afraid to give a number because it's hard to say. It can be some weeks 10 hours a week on this, sometimes 20 hours a week. It just depends. We're in the application cycle, so that's quite a bit of extra time right now. Another thing, this is a great question too. I know you said the program does not compensate the journey workers, which we do not, but do the clinics compensate the journey workers? Not that I know of. They do not compensate the journey workers. Just like with any of our clinics that work with the interns, it's because with our traditional program, they still do have interns that come, and the technicians take on those roles as kind of added responsibility, kind of just, doing something new and exciting as a veterinary technician. So as far as I know, they do not compensate them. However, a nice incentive for our employers working with our area workforce centers, they are working with our clinics, and they can actually help the clinics. So the workforce centers can pay a portion of that journey worker's salary, because that journey worker working with our students may be taking away a little bit from their traditional duties. And hopefully it should all pay off in the end. But our workforce centers can work with the clinics to pay part of that journey worker's salary for working with our apprentices. And I also know that I think I saw a question come through earlier saying, how do you get employers? And that was a little bit of legwork initially, like talking to some employers that I think would be a good fit for this. This actually started, and I could talk for hours about this. Obviously, we're super excited and we love this program. We had an employer come to us. They had employees that they wanted to pay to go to school. So that's kind of how all this started. And our dean said, hey, this sounds like an apprenticeship type model. Let's look at that. And that's where this started. So with one employer, and then going through the apprenticeship model. And then I went to another employer and said, hey, I have something I want to pitch to you. And it just grew from there. Now, as the word spreads, I don't have to pitch it to anyone. I have employers coming to us. So again, in the past month, I've had 4 employers come to me and say, hey, how do we become a part of this apprenticeship program? Just reading through, do you have separate instructors to moderate the modules and Friday labs just for these apprentice students? Or do these responsibilities fall on the traditional instructors? We don't, I guess both. We have hired additional adjunct faculty to help with our traditional programming as well as this. But yeah, it is additional classes to go through these modules to get the curriculum into an online friendly format, which has been a huge part of what we've been doing. And then also to run those modules, because we don't just hit go and say, hey, it's all online, just go through it. We are keeping track of that. We are doing grading. We are making sure their assignments are being completed through the online modules, participating in discussion boards. So it definitely requires additional faculty time, just as if you were to add a whole new programming track, whatever you would need to hire instructor-wise to teach those, we definitely, so as far as the workload commitment, it's additional classes, it's additional workload. But these students are registering just like our traditional programming, so that's hopefully paying for the additional faculty salary. What happens after the student graduates? Do they now have to find a new job to provide a space at the approved clinic for a new student? Great question. We haven't, since we're new, we haven't gone to graduates yet. So in the ideal world, they will graduate. The clinic has just trained them for 2 years. So hopefully they're going to stay on and continue to work for that clinic. But we know things change, and we know that graduates move, they move to different states, so that will happen, but they are definitely not forced out the door to make space for new apprentices. What we're starting to see as we get ready for our next cohort is we're really excited to see this mentorship. So now we're going to have students going into the 2nd year of our program, and our current clinics already want to take more apprentices. So they may have a 2nd year apprentice and they'll have a new one starting, so that 2nd year can mentor the new one. So right now, our clinics are desperate for bodies, right? They're short veterinary technician, they're short interns. They want these bodies in the door, so they're not pushing anyone out to make way for new. So they want more apprentices, more applicants that they can train, and then they're hoping that they continue on after graduation. Are the online modules synchronous or asynchronous? They are asynchronous. We have been working really closely with an instructional designer who has been a huge asset to develop everything into, we're not just recording lectures and posting it. So when the module opens, it's 2 weeks of material. So right now, module opens, they have 2 weeks of pharmacology, A&P, and surgical nursing material that they need to get through. We want to allow them some flexibility. So to say, you don't have to be at class at 10 o'clock today, because they're an employee, they're working. So we know when they come home from work, then hopefully they can catch up. So it is asynchronous, but they do have to complete that material within 2 weeks. They can't wait until the end of the semester. How are credits calculated? How are adjunct course payments calculated? So a couple of different things. The credits are calculated. They are registering for the same classes as our traditional students. They do have a different suffix, I guess I'm trying to say. So instead of registering for our typical anatomy and physiology course, they would register for A&P with an X on the end. That's the apprenticeship course. So the credits are calculated the same. They graduate with the same credits, and our adjuncts are paid for these. It is a little bit different, and it gets a little bit tricky. And I may have to have Shannon speak to this, but each course has been different because for, say, when we get to our anesthesia course, they're not doing all of their anesthesia labs on campus. Our traditional students, they're on campus for surgery and anesthesia labs, where our apprentices are not. So there is a little bit different in the pay for the adjuncts for those. Can you elaborate on that, Shannon?
Yeah, so we pay for lecture. We pay the adjuncts for lecture since they are not doing the lab, they're doing their labs in the clinic. And then on Fridays, if they are doing a lab, we pay them hourly. We pay an hourly rate.
So hopefully that clarifies that question. And these are all great questions because these are things that we have been working through as we've launched this program. And we're getting it fine-tuned, especially as we get ready for the next cohort. Will your VTNE pass rate be reported as separate tracks? I don't anticipate it will. Right now we have 2 tracks. We have our 2-year and 3-year. And when they graduate and take the VTNE, a lot of times they'll all take the VTNE together. So for example, we just got our report from our last group of students, and some of those were 2-year graduates and some of those are 3-year graduates. And we just get it all grouped. It's not broken up when we get the report from the AAVSB, so I don't anticipate that we'll break it up. We'll definitely pay attention to that because we want to make sure that they're being successful in the program. But I don't believe that we'll report it out separately because they all take it as a group. I apologize if I missed any questions. Like I said, new ones come up and the old ones disappear. So if there's additional questions. Hi, Jackie. I hope things are good in Delhi. You're not buried in snow. So I think you have our contact information. Feel free to reach out. Yeah, we look forward to talking to you more about this. We're super excited. So far, the feedback from our students and our businesses has been, our employers love it.
So I'm just adding your contact information again into the stream because it went so quickly. So let me just add that in just in case anyone missed it. And because we love feedback, this is the link for the survey that we would very much appreciate if you could take like just a minute to complete and maybe put in some topics you'd like to hear in the future. But it looks like you're getting a lot of thank yous. And Peg says Maine has been pushing for this kind of program.
There is one more question.
Yeah, just saw that one.
It says, do the journey workers, and again, Shannon, I'll need your help with this. Do the journey workers count as staff faculty in terms of accreditation? You know, we're not up for accreditation review for a few more years. So, but I'm assuming that they will, right, Shannon?
Yes.
I mean, they're on as personnel, so.
Yeah, they're technically employees, but just non-paid employees.
I think we have a couple more years, so we're pushing. Great question, though.
Okay, I don't know if we want to give it maybe a couple more seconds, see if any more last minute questions come in, because you've got a bunch of them.
It was great. I love all the questions. So we'll hang out. But otherwise, you have both of our contacts. And
Yes. Okay. Well, I want to thank you both very much for joining us today. And for, well, I guess this started with the Facebook page, right?
yes.
Yeah, and then it became a fireside chat. So there you go, guys. Future knowledge you have there to, if you have any topics on Facebook.
I love the
became a
Facebook page.
fireside.
It's great to collaborate.
It is, and there's a lot of communication, and this is a great community. And everything being shared and all of these fireside chats. So again, I want to thank everyone who came. And there's a lot of interest in this chat, and I'm glad that so many of you were able to participate and ask any questions that you had. So thank you very much, Jennifer and Shannon, for again, for joining us today and for, emailing and wanting to do this chat. So
thank you.
We appreciate it. So if no one has any last minute questions, I think it might be a wrap up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank
Have a great day.
you.